So this is Matt and Alex here with Sticker Captain. Say hi. Today we're going to go over how to install one of our large partial wrap vehicle decals. Today we're working with the watercolor cherry blossom decal. You're going to start out by cleaning off your vehicle. Make sure it's super clean, especially all your edges around your wheel wells. Use your favorite cleaner for your vehicle. If you're not sure what to use, it's always an option to use 25% isopropyl alcohol and water. Once your vehicle is all nice and squeaky clean, get the rest of your materials, which can include tape, scissors, X-Acto blade, and your squeegee. If you don't have a squeegee, use a stiff card. We do have squeegees on our website, so if you want a real nice one that's going to last you a long time and do a better job than your credit card, hit us up or check out stickercaptain.com for that. Now, we also would suggest using a friend to help you because this is real difficult to do by yourself, but if you are up to the challenge, go ahead and get your decal lined up where you want it. Now, our decals are sized to fit most vehicles, but it's up to you how you want to position it. We're positioning this to go over the passenger handle a little bit and also to just hang off the edge of that wheel well just a little bit. Once you have it in place, get it taped up and then take a step back to make sure that everything is lined up exactly how you want it. Once you have your decal all lined up, you're going to tape it along the left side. Sometimes, especially if you're working by yourself, it might be easier to tape it down the middle and do the right side than the left. But because of how this decal is printed and cut with the big thick branch on the left and a bunch of smaller branches on the right, it's going to be easier to do it left to right all in one go, and we'll explain that more as we continue. Now again, these decals are made with really high quality vinyl. They've got the air release, they've got the thick laminate. It's going to be real hard to mess this up, and just be extra careful. But don't worry if you make any small mistakes, just lift it back up and lay it back down. We print with a vinyl of this quality to make sure that it's really hard to not have a good experience. Now let's talk about transfer tape a little bit. Now the reason why we use transfer tape is because it's going to be real difficult for you to install all these little branches by themselves. So while you're peeling it, be real careful to make sure that you don't have the transfer tape stick to itself. Remember that the most important part here is the decal. So you can cut the transfer tape any way you want, as long as you're not cutting into the decal, it's not going to matter. The transfer tape's just to make sure that everything stays in the same place that it started. So you get a final install that looks just like it does in the photos. Once you have the backing paper off, have your friend hold it out for you and begin to squeegee along this far left side. Now, the difficult part in this, and the reason why we use transfer tape, is because every vehicle has a lot of these wavy edges, these accents and stuff that make this not a completely flat surface. So the difficulty here is going to be to make sure that you don't get any wrinkles, and to make sure that while you're squeegeeing your decal, you make sure that you don't have any bubbles as well. Now, bubbles aren't a big issue because we use an air release vinyl that removes bubbles. But you still want to make sure that everything lays perfectly flat. So as we go, we're going to show you a couple tricks that you can do to make sure that you can work around these rounded edges. So continue to squeegee the vinyl down up against the vehicle, working from left to right while your partner holds the decal. Make sure that it doesn't stick until you want it to. Now, as we get closer to the right side, you're going to see that we're putting a lot of strain on this transfer tape. So what we're going to do, now you don't have to do this, but what we're going to do is we're going to cut the transfer tape right here and do the top and the bottom separate to make sure that we can work around a lot of these rounded edges. So once again, you do not have to do this, but we're going to take our trusty scissors here and we are going to cut between the top and the bottom sections. Now again, what this is doing is this is helping us work around these rounded edges, the rounded parts of your vehicle, to make sure that this lays perfectly flat. Transfer tape is really only meant to go on flat surfaces, but again, this is the lesser of two evils here to make sure that you have the easiest possible installation. Back to squeegeeing, we're going to do top part first. To see how much easier this is, you're working with a much smaller piece. Now, this part, like we said, is going to hit the handle, so we're going to deal with that in a second. Now, I'm going to go back, and I'm going to do the bottom part. Now again, you do not have to do this, but this is just going to help you in some situations work around all the crazy rounded edges of your vehicle. We use a high-tack transfer tape to make sure that big heavy decals like this can get pulled up as you work. Now this top part we were talking about, I'm actually going to peel the transfer tape off the decal and then work around this edge on its own. Now that I'm going to have to trim with the X-Acto blade, but we're going to talk about that in a second. It's up to you to choose where you want the decal to land. There's no right or wrong answer. Alex wants this hitting underneath his handle instead of on it, so he's going to put it under there. But there's nothing wrong with working around and trimming around any of these handles or edges. It's totally up to you. Now that we have everything pressed down, we're going to go ahead and start peeling off the transfer tape. Now be very, very careful as you do this to make sure that anything that's not fully pressed down, we get. If you try to peel off the transfer tape and it's not fully pressed down, you can have it stretch or tear if you're not super careful, so go slow. It's okay to tear the transfer tape at this point. You don't need it anymore. It's going right in the trash when we're done with this. Getting a real good pull here. Looks like everything was perfectly pressed down as we went. But again, it's not a big deal to press it back down if something didn't lay flat like it should. Be careful around these open edges. We're going to be trimming these later. You want to make sure that you don't tear it, just like we mentioned. Again, getting a really good pull here as we were able to fully press this down underneath the transfer tape. Now, as I mentioned before, our vinyl has an air release technology added to it. So any bubbles that you have in there, just press with your finger with your squeegee and they should come right out. Now that is a pretty good looking decal. Alright, now putting the finishing touches on this. As you can see, this kind of hangs off the edge of the vehicle here. This is how we wanted it. So you got a couple options. You can either cut that or you can just bend it around the edge like so. That's why it's really, really important to make sure that you clean the inside of your wheel wells real well. To make sure that this sticks down and doesn't come up later. Same thing here. We're going to make sure that we trim along these edges. You don't want to be opening your door and having your vinyl tear. So make sure that you can either cut in the middle and fold it around or cut it on both edge. I'm going to go ahead and cut this right along the edge there. And then I'm going to use my squeegee to fold that decal down. Alright, and there you go. Don't forget, there is really no right or wrong answer here. It's your car, it's your decal. You can arrange it any way you want. You can cut it into parts. You can have it come out of the trunk. You can have it come out of the wheel well like Lee did, any way that you want. Now we're going to go ahead and install the other pieces of this decal and get this full partial wrap finished. If you like what you see, go ahead and check out our store. We have lots of cool designs that are made to fit pretty much any vehicle. Thanks again. This is Matt and Alex from StickerCaptain.com.